Hello dear students, welcome to our biology program. In our last episodes we studied the two reproductive systems of men, which is the female and male reproductive system. Today we are going to complete it by how the body is expecting the babies in their bodies. In order to make that, we are going to study breeding cycle. Breeding cycle. In the life of placental mammals generally, it is a certain period where the ovary becomes regularly active in the adult female. Breeding cycle is a period and coincide cycle with the sexual function of mating and reproduction. The period of such a cycle differ in various mammals. As I said before, the breeding cycle, it is a period, and this period periodically happens every month, for example, every 3 months, whatever it is. This is a sexual function and mating and reproduction. This period, it differs from one living organism to another in the mammals in general. For example, in tigers and lions, we found that it is annual. It takes place annually. And in the life of cats and dogs, we found that this one, it takes place 2 times per year. Frequently per month, such as in rabbits and rats. But in men, what happens? In human beings, such a cycle is known as a menstrual cycle. This takes place every 28 days every month. Then, changes that occurs for the female genital system during this period. When the female approaches the maturity at the age of 12 to 15, a monthly rhythmic changes takes place in the female reproductive system. According to the ovarian and the uterine activities, these changes takes place. Such activities may correlate with fertilization and pregnancy or non-pregnancy. That means this happens. We found that these rhythmic changes that they takes place according to ovarian activity and the uterine activity. Such activity, it is related to the fertilization process and the pregnancy or non-pregnancy that may take place for this woman. What happens after the age of maturity? At the age of 45 to 50, we found that the ovary becomes inactive, where the hormonal secretion is decreased and the uterine lining is wrinkled. This period, we call it menopause. Then what happens during the menstrual cycle? The menstrual cycle in the human beings is the breeding cycle, and it is known as the menstrual cycle. This typically takes place into 28 days, in which the two ovarian alternate with each other to produce mature ovum. It is divided into 3 phases. This menstrual cycle is divided into 3 phases. The first phase, it is called the proliferation. The second phase, ovulation. The third phase is menstruation. So these phases, we are going to explain them each one by one. Phase of proliferation. During this phase, the pituitary gland releases the follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH hormone. This hormone stimulates the follicles to develop a new follicle, to develop in the ovary to form a Graafian follicle which surround the ovum. In the ovary, the Graafian follicle secretes a certain hormone which is called estrogen, which stimulates the growth of the endometrium, the layer which line the uterus from inside. The Graafian follicle at growth and ovum mature within 10 days. So this takes place in 10 days. Then the second phase, it is ovulation. This phase starts when the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland secretes the luteinizing hormone or LH hormone. This at the 14th day. The day 14, which stimulates this hormone, stimulates the ovum to liberate from the Graafian follicle, or to be released from it. So the Graafian follicle is transformed into the corpus luteum. So I said in the previous phase, the proliferation phase, the FSH hormone or follicle stimulating hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland, which stimulate the follicle to develop and form the Graafian follicle which surround the ovum. Then the luteinizing hormone become after that and stimulate this Graafian follicle to release the ovum from it. The remains part of this Graafian follicle, it is called corpus luteum. It has a very important function, this one. In the ovary, the corpus luteum secretes progesterone and estrogen hormones. These hormones, they have a very important function, which at the first increases the thickness of the endometrium. This and the supply of blood. So it is secreted, so this endometrium becomes larger to be expected that there will be a pregnancy after that, or there will be a baby in this part. Then the second important, it stops the ovulation or inhibits the ovulation period. That stops the formation of any new ovum. It is stopped completely. Time of this phase, it takes place 14 days. Then after that, the phase of menstruation. The menstruation is if the ovum is not fertilized, the corpus luteum degenerates gradually. Consequently, the secretion of the progesterone stops, and so the endometrium degenerates and the blood vessels tear due to the successive contractions of the uterus. So in this phase, if there is no fertilization, so there is no pregnancy and so on, all the preparation which was found for prepare the uterus for expecting babies, it is not needed. So they are teared and the blood fall down from these vessels. This is due to the successive contraction of the uterus. Thus, the menstrual bleeding takes place. Time of this phase lasts about from 3 to 5 days, and a new cycle of the other ovary begins. Then, what happens if there is a fertilization process takes place? So the pregnancy and the corpus luteum has a very important function. If the ovum is fertilized, through this one, the pregnancy occurs. The corpus luteum remains to secrete the progesterone and estrogen. This inhibits, as I told you before, inhibits the ovulation, because there is babies, so there is no need for this ovulation another time. Then after that, the menstrual cycle also stops till after birth, whereas the corpus luteum reaches to its maximum growth at the end of the 3rd month of pregnancy. We found that the corpus luteum starts to degenerate during the 4th month, when the placenta at this moment it is completed and grows into the uterus. So the placenta takes the place of this corpus luteum by taking its function, which is secreting the progesterone hormone. This progesterone which is secreted from the placenta, it makes a certain functions which are preserving the endometrium. This preservation of the endometrium to keep it and protect the babies inside the uterus. Also, it stimulates the maternal mammary glands to develop gradually. Also stimulates the maternal mammary glands to develop gradually. And in the same time, it inhibits the ovulation during pregnancy as a corpus luteum does. What happens if the corpus luteum is removed? When before the 4th month, if we remove the corpus luteum before the 4th month, during this pregnancy, yes, the abortion takes place. Then abortion or the baby will be died. Then the second phase after that, or the second step we are going to speak about it is the fertilization. What is meant by fertilization? The fertilization, it is the fusion of male gamete, which is represented by the sperm, with the female gamete, which is represented by the ovum, to form the zygote, which divides, forming the embryo. After the ovum is released in the 14th day, from the beginning of bleeding, it will be ready for fertilization through 1 or 2 days. So within 2 days, this ovum is fertilized. If not, it will fall down. Fertilization takes place in the anterior third part of fallopian tube. After fertilization, the ovum surrounds itself with a coat, which prevents the entrance of any other sperm. The number of sperm are about from 300 to 500 millions per ejaculation. Many of them is lost during the journey from the vagina till it reaches the ovum. Therefore, the man is considered infertile if the number of this sperm is less than 20 millions. The sperm share in secreting the hyaluronic enzyme. This hyaluronic enzyme, it is very important because it helps to dissolve this coat or a part of the coat of the ovum in order to fertilize this ovum. So the sperm share in secreting the hyaluronic enzyme, which dissolves a part of the ovum coat through which only one sperm enters, the head and the neck only. The sperm can stay alive about from 2 to 3 days inside the female genital cyst. After fertilization, by about 24 hours, the zygote divides and begins by a mitotic division. Two cells, 2 plastomeres. In the upper part of the fallopian tubes, this happens. Then 4 cells in the next day. Later, the cellular division speeds up, forming a mass of small cells known as the morula. Morula is pushed along the uterine tube by ciliary action and muscle contraction till it reaches the uterus. In the uterus, this is implanted among the fold of the thick-walled uterus, endometrium, or the endometrium. As I told you before, the endometrium here, it is prepared for expecting this zygote. At the end of the first week, this takes place, or the implantation takes place. The endometrium is characterized by rich blood supply necessary for development and development of embryo along the 9 months of pregnancy. So it is very important for us to know that the endometrium, it is a very important part for the embryo to develop inside the uterus of the mother. Then the pregnancy and the embryonic development. the embryonic membranes. The rate of the embryo growth is increased after what I told you before, that at the first day they divide into two, the zygote divide into 2 cells, the next day into 4 cells, and so on, and then after that it begins to be a little bit faster. Then it forms the morula at the end of the first week, and this morula implanted inside the uterus walls, which is the endometrium 1 that was prepared for expecting this baby. Then after that the pregnancy begins. This is pregnancy, and this embryonic or this embryo is also protected. The embryonic membranes. These embryonic membranes protect the embryo. The rate of embryo growth is increased after this first week. Organogenesis and tissue differentiation gradually takes place. The organogenesis, that means the formation of organs. 2 embryonic membranes are formed. The outer membrane is the chorion, and the inner membrane is the amnion. If we look for this part, we are going to find that the embryo here, it is protected by these 2 membranes, the embryonic and the chorion. And we knew that the embryonic is at the outer side, while the chorion is found in the outer membrane, and the inner membrane, it is the amnion. The chorion surrounds the amnion. Its function is to protect the embryo finger. Then what about the amnion? The amnion surrounds the embryo with the fluid, serves to protect the embryo against shocks and dryness. The embryo is connected with the placenta by the umbilical cord, and we knew that the placenta, they are finger-like, enter into the walls of the endometrium of the uterus at a certain place to provide the babies with its needs through the umbilical cord. Its length is about 70 centimeters, increase to give more freedom for the motility of the embryo. The umbilical cord length is about 70 centimeters. The embryo is connected with the placenta by umbilical cord. This umbilical cord length is about 70 centimeters and increase to give the chance for the baby with a free motion inside this uterus. The umbilical cord, here the motility or the motion of the embryo is found inside the uterus. This umbilical cord is a tissue rich in blood vessels, which transfer digested food, vitamins, water, salts, and oxygen from the placenta to the embryo. And this enters to the circulation of this embryo. And it transfers from the baby to the mother circulation. It transfers the excretory waste, carbon dioxide from this embryo to the circulatory system or the circulation to the placenta. And from this circulation, it is taken to the circulation or circulatory system of the mother, and then it takes its way to outside the body. The chorion. The chorion is around the amnion. Its function is to protect the embryo. It is finger-like projection grow from the chorion membrane to be inserted in the endometrium, in which the capillary of both embryo and mother touches each other. They intermingle, forming the placenta. So the placenta here, as I told you before, they are finger-like which enter to the endometrium, and they are rich with blood vessels of the embryo and that of the mother. What is the importance then of this placenta? This placenta, it is very important because it transfers digested food, water, oxygen, vitamins from mother's blood to the embryo blood by diffusion and get rid of the embryo's excretory wastes. Fetus food or the fetus blood does not normally mix with mother's blood. So the blood of the mother and the fetus or the embryo, they are not mixed together. It secretes the progesterone. The second function for the placenta, it secretes progesterone hormone at the beginning of the 4th month. Yes, after that the corpus luteum begins to degenerate. So it takes its place in this secretion. The 4th month of pregnancy, yes, after the 4th month or at the beginning of the 4th month of pregnancy, where the corpus luteum degenerates and the placenta becomes the source of the progesterone hormone. It also transfers the drugs, harmful substances such as alcohol, nicotine, virus from mother's blood to the embryo, which cause great harms and sometimes serious harms and deformities to the embryo and many diseases for it. And now, my dear students, we reach the most important part of our program, which is the question part. Let's go and try to answer together this part. Yes, the first question. Name the function of each of the following: placenta, chorion, corpus luteum. First, the placenta. Try to answer with me or try to prepare your answer. Then, yes, the placenta secretes progesterone hormone at the beginning of the 4th month of pregnancy. It transfers digested food, water, oxygen, vitamins from mother's blood to the embryo's blood by diffusion and gets rid of the embryo excretory wastes. Very good. The third function for this placenta is the transfers of drugs, harmful substances such as alcohol, nicotine, viruses from mother's blood to the embryo, which cause great harms, serious deformities, and diseases to the embryo. The second question, it was the chorion. What is the function of the chorion? Yes, the chorion, it protects the embryo. They are finger-like projection, grow from the chorion membrane to be inserted into the endometrium, in which the capillary of both embryo and mother touch each other. And this chorion, it protects the embryo and provides it with its need or the formation of the placenta. The third one, the corpus luteum. Yes, in the ovary of the corpus luteum secretes progesterone and estrogen hormone. Yes. Second question. Choose the most accurate answer for the following questions. FSH hormone and LH hormone are secreted from Graafian follicle, the corpus luteum, endometrium. And the last one, the pituitary gland. Another time this question, follicle stimulating hormone or FSH hormone and LH hormone or luteinizing hormone are secreted from the Graafian follicle, the corpus luteum, the endometrium, or the pituitary gland? Yes, very good, the pituitary gland. From the function of LH hormone is ovulation, the development of the Graafian follicle, the development of the mammary gland, the development of corpus luteum. Yes, the ovulation or the release of ovum from the Graafian follicle. Third question, the fertilization of the ovum occurs in. The fertilization of the ovum occurs in uterus, first third part of the fallopian tube, the last half of fallopian tube, the ovary. Number B, the first third part of the fallopian tube. Very good. For the adult woman, where the menstrual cycle is 28 days, the phase of ovulation occurs in the 9th day from the beginning of this cycle, the 14th day from the beginning of this cycle, the 9th day from the end of the cycle, the 12th day from the beginning of this cycle. Yes, number B, the 14th day from the beginning of this cycle. By using the figure, complete the following table. By using this figure, complete this table, the name and the function. Number A, the amniotic fluid, or the fluid which is secreted by the amnion. A fluid serves, its function is, a fluid serves to protect the embryo against shocks and dryness. Another time, number A is an amniotic fluid. Its function is to serve to protect the embryo against shocks and dryness. Number B, yes, it is the umbilical cord. Very good. A tissue rich in blood vessels which transfers digested food, vitamins, water, salts, and oxygen from the placenta to the embryo's circulation. And it transfers the secretory waste and carbon dioxide from the embryo's circulation to the placenta. Now, my dear students, we reached the last point of the reproductive systems in men. See you next time, and good luck.